We've got some NFL trade rumors to dive into here on Verts. We are presented by Prize Picks. My name is Harrison Graham. We're going to take a look at 3 players who are rumored in the trade mill right now. Let's start with the obvious one who's most recently in the news cycle. That is Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy. Of course, Minnesota named Kyler Murray the starter. And there was already speculation if McCarthy doesn't win this job, could he want out? Would the Vikings want to trade him? And now Adam Schefter, a Michigan man, so take it with a grain of salt, but he is stoking the flames on a potential J.J. McCarthy trade. He said this on Get Up this morning. He said it certainly feels like he's done in Minnesota, or his days in Minnesota are now numbered. We've seen other quarterbacks get benched and respond well to it, like Bryce Young in Carolina. We've seen other quarterbacks get benched, like Anthony Richardson and Trey Lance, be done with that organization. We'll see how this unfolds with J.J. McCarthy, the former 10th overall pick in the draft. He's 23 years old. Last year he made 10 starts and battled through an ankle injury. He's had other injuries that have prevented him from playing. If he's going to move off of Minnesota, he's going to get another chance somewhere else. We'll see whether or not that happens this season. One place that would make sense, doesn't have an opening at this time as a starter, that would be in Los Angeles with Jim Harbaugh behind Justin Herbert. Herbert would be one injury away from the Chargers calling the Vikings. Forget the Herbert injury part of it. I think the Chargers make the most sense regardless because, A, the obvious reason, which is why people are connecting him to the Chargers, why I mentioned it yesterday and the average fan on Twitter has said so, is because J.J. McCarthy and Jim Harbaugh love each other. They won a national championship together at Michigan. And a secondary reason is their backup QB situation isn't that great. It's DJ Uiagalelei as the number 3 and Trey Lance is the number 2. Trey Lance has gotten a little better, but I would put him at an average at best, if not below average backup in the NFL. McCarthy, say what you want about him. He's better than DJU. I think once he picks up the offense, he could be an upgrade over Trey Lance as well. And so it really comes down to, what does JJ want? What do the Vikings want? Do they want this relationship to continue? From a JJ's perspective, does he want to stick this out? He's the backup. Kyler Murray's been inconsistent in recent years. He's had some injury issues. There's a world where JJ still gets a chance to play this year for the Vikings, and if that opportunity comes and he plays well, he could still be the guy, although to Schefter's point, it feels like his days are numbered, but as long as he's on the team, there's a chance if Kyler gets hurt or plays really poorly, or would he simply just like to rip the Band-Aid off and get a fresh start? Kevin O'Connell said yesterday when he talked to the media that JJ has shown improvement and growth. Now, some reporting behind the scenes has dropped since then of immaturity. Is there something missing between JJ and KOC? It's hard to say what's gone on in that building since he's been drafted. Obviously, from an on-field standpoint, it has not gone well. He missed his entire rookie season due to a knee injury. Last year, while he had some moments, you add it all up, it was pretty poor, which you can see with the statistics on screen right there. And so now, year 3, he doesn't beat out Kyler Murray, so you're just kind of in this spot where it's you just ride it out and you're the backup this year. Next year, you're on the final year of your rookie contract. You're not going to have your 5th-year option picked up. And then on the Minnesota side of this, they've got Carson Wentz. They seem to like Maxx Crosby as last year's UDFA as someone they at least like in the room. Would they be open to a trade because they have other guys? Wentz can be a backup. If you ask Kevin O'Connell in private, one game, do or die, win or lose, do you think Carson Wentz or J.J. McCarthy has a better chance to win? He might say Carson Wentz. I don't think that's a crazy thought that he might have. And if that's the case, and if they're comfortable with Wentz as a backup, and if they just don't think J.J. can be a starter for this team in the future, then I think you have to be open to a trade. Doesn't mean you give them away. Doesn't mean it's 7th-round pick's best offer, we'll take it. But maybe it's a 5th-round pick that could turn into a 3rd or a 4th with conditions or something like that. I don't think it's a day 2 pick, but I do think Minnesota would be open to it if the price is right, and I think JJ would as well, especially if the team he's going to would be kind of a breath of fresh air. Either A, a chance to play, which there's not going to be many of those, if any, or B, a familiar environment like Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, or at least an offensive-oriented team where he could develop, even though Minnesota has an offensive-minded head coach, and that has not worked out in JJ's favor. Will the Vikings trade J.J. McCarthy? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Go ahead and let us know. We are sponsored by Prize Picks, guys. No one does sports picks better than Prize Picks. Link is in the comments and description to sign up today. The way it works is simple. You pick 2 or more players and select more or less in their stat projections. With football around the corner, we're talking passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards. We got the W going on. Points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers, and a whole lot more. Baseball is going as well. I already hit a 2-player lineup today as less on strikeouts with my guy Shane Baz there. And then basically just Nerfy style in the other game. Neither pitcher gave up a run in the first inning. So boom, $15, 136. Nice little extra few bucks in my pocket today. That is an example of a Prize Picks lineup. If you want to tail or fade my picks, by the way, at HGramNFL, follow me on the Prize Picks app. Give me a follow. You can see all my lineups there. Sign up, play for $5, code HMA. If you win your first $5 lineup, Prize Picks is going to give you $150 in lineups. Check it out today. Link is in the comments and description, code HMA for when you sign up. Okay, let's get to the next player here with trade rumors. Vita Vea. Obviously, he's the biggest name right now holding in at training camp with the Buccaneers. He's got 1 year and $18 million left on his contract. He's 31 years old. He wants that final payday. The defensive tackle market has exploded. We'll talk about that, intertwine that in. The latest, there doesn't seem to be a lot of movement. We got a report here from Mike Garafolo of NFL Network that provided a little something here. He said, just outlining Vea's play the last 2 years, he's had 101 pressures and 11.5 sacks over the last 2 years. I won't go through all the numbers, but they are comparable to Jeffrey Simmons and Quentin Williams, who just got paid. Both those guys, they are better than Jalen Carter and Dexter Lawrence. Both those guys have been paid. So he's looking at this and saying these guys are getting in the mid-upper 30s in terms of millions per year. I don't get the sense that he even wants to be at the top of the market, but he's making $18 million this year, whereas Jalen Carter is at the top of the market with $38 million. That's not even halfway there. They haven't been able to get something done, but they are still talking. He said, unlike Baker and the Bucs, Vea and the Bucs are having some level of a dialogue. And look, I think this is a tricky one, especially from Tampa's standpoint, because Jalen Carter is a 23, 24-year-old ascending player. The money you gave him is banking on him continuing to develop and improve. Quentin Williams, probably a little bit of an overpay, but still in his 20s. Jeffrey Simmons, still in his 20s, a little bit better of an overall player. At the same time, though, Zach Allen, Milton Williams last year, Jordan Davis with the Eagles, yes, younger, but not as impactful as a Vita Vea. He's $8 million more than what Vita Vea. He's not even sniffing top 10. $24 million is the threshold to be a top 10 highest paid defensive tackle. Vita Vea is at 18. So I think there's a needle to thread here. I don't think he should reset the market. I don't think he should get like this 3, 4, 5-year deal with $80 million guaranteed. But I think there's something that can be worked out with Vita Vea and the Bucs, or with another team where you pay him good money on a shorter term basis, because he's still good. It's not like he's fallen off a cliff. I think he's actually improved over the years as a pass rusher as well. Sacks were slightly down last year, but the QB hits, the pressures, that stuff was still there. I still think he could play at a high level for a contending team. So what I've kind of mocked up is there a 2-year extension for $25 to $30 million per year that makes sense for both parties? Hey, we'll give you 2 for 55. You got 1 for 18 left. That turns to 3 for 73. That's almost 25 a year. And on the extension, it's over 25 a year. We're not going to reset the market with you given your age, but you'll be firmly in the top 10 highest paid defensive tackles. To me, that's a fair balance. I'm sure his agents are probably asking for low mid 30s per year, and Tampa might be hesitant. So we'll see where that goes. We'll see if they ultimately just trade him. His agent a week or two ago said the only way he thinks this ends is with the trade. So, and I think Vea is going to hold firm, because at 31 years old, if you decide to just play for $18 million and you have a down year, you get injured, that payday is never coming. So, I do think without a new deal, he will not play week 1. So, keep an eye on this one. I think this situation could get interesting. All right, Maxx Crosby with the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, early parts of the offseason, he was the hot name. He seemingly wanted out. The Raiders seemed open to trade him, and they did trade him to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 first-round picks, but they failed his physical and the trade fell apart. And so the question is, what now? Obviously, Maxx Crosby has been vocal. Everything happens for a reason. I'm where I'm supposed to be. The Raiders welcomed him back with open arms. All is good, right? Well, For now, games haven't started yet. What if the Raiders suck again? Would anybody be surprised by that? Is that going to change things? I think it might, and so does Adam Schefter. Here's what he had to say. He said, here's how I assess the Maxx Crosby situation. Have you noticed how happy he is in Vegas, how much he wants to be a Raider? He was the one who really jump-started all the trade talks and all the movement that wound up getting him traded to Baltimore before he didn't pass the physical and the trade was voided. I do think Crosby is in Vegas right now, obviously. I think that's their plan for now, but here's what I think things get interesting. Do I think Maxx Crosby gets traded this summer? That would surprise me, but anything is possible in this league. We have to wait and see, but I don't think that's the timeline. I think he'll be there. They'll play him and use him. He's the face of the franchise and beloved in Vegas, and he should be for all the effort and energy he's brought to the team through some dark years, but here's where I think it could change with time. Nobody's going to say it, but what if the Raiders are 1-5, 2-6, and we're coming up to the trade deadline in November, and there's a team that could use a pass rusher, and Maxx is playing at a high level? And to me, that's what I've said all along. And I know Raider fans, and I get it. Like, he's been the face of their team. It's like, this is meant to be. He's going to finish his career year. He's going to see the turnaround through. It's going to be awesome. Well, are they ready to win, though? Like, that division is brutal, and I do think the Raiders can be better this year, but better might be like, we're a scrappy 5 or 6 win team and more competitive and not getting blown out all the time. It's easy for Crosby to just kind of point to, like destiny and be like, yeah, well, this fell apart for a reason. I'm supposed to be a Raider for life. Are you going to feel that way if you're 1-7? Are you going to feel that way if it's chaotic again and the team sucks and the QB situation's a mess if that ends up playing out? Like, let's just see. Because if they're bad again, A, he might start to feel differently again, and B, the Raiders could trade him even if he wants to stay. He doesn't have a no-trade clause, to my knowledge. If they want to trade him, they might. They've already shown they're willing to. So I think this situation could really change once we get a few weeks into the season. I'll tell you this right now. They lose to the Dolphins week 1, it's going to be rough. They're not going to win in L.A. The Saints on the road isn't going to be easy. Chiefs, at the Patriots, Bills, Rams. Yeah, you get the Jets on the road, but you might be 1-6 by then. At San Francisco. After that is when the bye week kicks in, by the way. Seattle, at Denver, Cleveland. This could be a rough year again. Not because they're not better, not because they don't have more talent, but because the division's hard, and it's hard to go from being one of the worst teams in the league to competitive overnight. So do I think Maxx Crosby could change his mind again and want to compete during the last few years of his prime? Yes, because he's already felt that way. He could easily feel that way again. And by the way, the Raiders would be dumb to not listen to trade offers for him at the deadline if they're not contending. Oh, you'll offer me a first and a second? Done. We're going to keep building this thing from the ground up. We appreciate your years, Max. That's business. Teams do that all the time. They don't have to keep Maxx Crosby if he wants to stay there, and he might not want to in 3 months. So just keep an eye on this. I don't think it's a given that just because the other trade fell through that he's just a Raider for life. Maybe he will be, and maybe it'll be magical, and they'll win a Super Bowl, and it'll be awesome. But I don't think that's happening this year. And if it's bad this year, his name is going to be brought up again around the deadline. You can bank on that. Whether or not he gets traded, we'll see. But it will be brought up again. All right, who's more likely to get traded? Type VV for Vita Vea or MC for Maxx Crosby. I think at this exact moment you'd have to say Vea because I do agree with Schefter. I don't think Crosby gets traded before week 1. I don't think that'll happen. But Vea might if Tampa doesn't give him a deal. So right now it's Vea, but if we get into the season, I think it shifts towards Crosby. I do think there's a world he still gets traded this year. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of For Verts. We will continue to pump out content. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's get to 20,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there ASAP. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon.